And it makes sense if you think about the fact that they believe we got hit by these massive chunks of rock and ice and stone and iron from space.
Let me
43,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Boom!
Into 2 mile thick ice.
2 mile thick ice. Let me ask you a question. Have you heard of the Carolina Bays?
No.
Okay, so this is a great one because this ties into that. And this is like one of those things that nobody knows about, but it's a feature that's everywhere. And so up and down, if you search for Carolina Bays, Jamie, all up and down the East Coast, it's not just the Carolina, there are literally millions of these geological features. They're literally bays. They're elliptical bays. The whole landscape's littered with them. We started to notice them with the advent of aerial photography, and then when we started doing LiDAR flyovers, we start to see them under everything. Millions of them. We also, that's on the East Coast. Then over in Missoula, we have what's called Missoula rainwater basins. Again, millions of them, all over the landscape.
Yeah, look at that.
Carolina Bays, and they're everywhere. They range in size from pretty small to pretty big, like miles in diameter, and they're all elliptical. They're all like a conic section.
Now, what do they
look at that LiDAR one? Is really good.
What do they think these are?
So there's been some debate, and one of the mainstream opinions is that they're wind and sand, Aeolian lacustrine solution created. There's none of the experiments along the lines of wind can back this up. The interesting thing about these is that they're all oriented in a specific direction. And what turns out is that there was a study done because a guy went and mapped out thousands of them and lined them up. And it wasn't until he took into account the Coriolis effect, so the spin of the Earth, that all of a sudden all these lines, the orientation of these bays all lined up at around Saginaw Bay, so which would have been buried in ice. So here's the theory that comes out about the Carolina Bays, is that there was a massive impact into the ice. And it basically threw up splash damage of ice boulders the size of baseball stadiums on suborbital trajectories that then created this saturation bombardment and liquefaction of the entire East Coast and over there in Missoula of the entire land. Like it's
and that image, nuts. Jamie, in that lower left hand. Oh, I have a laser pointer.
Yeah.
Jimmy gave me a laser pointer.
I brought one.
How's this bad?
The gift that will keep on giving.
What do I have to do to get?
Just press that button. Oh yeah, rip off that little plastic thing.
Just rip out.
It's like a safety. Oh no, not
just
that.
Rip out the battery, the little cover.
Here, you can use this one. It's ready to go.
Okay, show me how to.
I gotcha.
Take that. Okay, so this one right here.
Whoa, Jesus.
I know, crazy, right?
I reflected back and blinded the shit out of
They get you?
This is the real deal.
So is that what they look like in real life?
They're more elliptical than that in general. So if you look at the LiDAR imagery, but a lot of them, yeah, and so they're overlapping as well.
I can't see.
Bro, I'm gonna be shooting this thing at airplanes later.
I got one that
Best $18 I've ever spent on Amazon ever.
I got one that'll pop balloons. It's
really?
So much. Oh, dude, I bought
It'll
a
pop
few
a
years back.
balloon?
Oh yeah. It comes with a little case with safety goggles. You got to put them on.
I learned
That's a
so much
$200
from this show. I learned so much.
I'll bring it.
So these are, what is that in real life? Is that, does it actually look like that?
It depends. Some of them are just farmland. Some of them are still lakes. They have bodies of water in them. They mostly show up with LiDAR.
Oh, look at this, Jamie.
There are a few spots
that you going to Google Earth.
Yeah, you can see them on Google Earth. There's
that's there right there.
That's more of a natural lake, but they're literally everywhere and they overlap. The whole landscape's made up of them.
Didn't they find most of them through LiDAR, though?
Yeah,
so a lot of them
LiDAR.
under the sediment.
They started to see them with aerial photography, and then LiDAR, they just turned up everywhere. Under farmland, I wish if I could, I didn't send you the photos of the bays with LiDAR. But it's just the crazy story about their creation is that these are splash damage from a cosmic impact into the ice, and they think it may be related to the Younger Dryas. So one of the impacts into the ice kicks up massive ice boulders that are coming in at 6 or 7 kilometers per second that take 7 or 8 minutes of these ballistic trajectories to come down from Saginaw Bay and then just all over the East Coast and Missoula, and it would have exterminated anything that lived there. It literally liquefied the ground. The ground would have the earthquakes and the impacts would have turned the ground into quicksand, like we see in the aftermath of earthquakes. You have cars that are half buried in mud. Like it literally liquefies the earth. And it was just a saturation bombardment on the East Coast. And it's people now just, we play golf on them and it's all this stuff. But it's a catastrophic landscape, the entire East Coast.
Which
and
is what
likely
you would
off the coast as well.
So here, this image is what?
Yeah.
This is from South Carolina's government page talking about it.
Carolina Bays. You see they're elliptical. They all orient in a certain direction.
And so the conventional explanation is wind?
Wind and basically water. Yeah, but it doesn't. There's none of the experiments make sense. There's a guy on YouTube, Antonio Zamora's. He's also written a paper on it and a couple of books. But he shows that there's always been a bit of debate about them. But the by far the best, I think, explanation for them is the ice boulder hypothesis. It's crazy to think about it. Like, impact happens over here. 8, 9, 10 minutes later, you just have this rain of just destruction coming from the sky that obliterates the entire coast of the United States.
That's what you'd expect if there's something that hit at a high speed and of course there'd be fallout. Things would get sprayed about. It would make sense to find that if the younger dryas climate impact hypothesis is true, there would be something like that.
They've done experiments. Yeah, so they've you shoot like a bullet into ice at an angle, and it shows like the shattering of ice and the orientation. So we can step backwards from the bays and look at, okay, what's the energy required for the impact and at what angle was the impact coming in? And it's something like it would have been probably a mile-wide impactor up at Saginaw Bay that might have ejected that much ice to do that.
We're so vulnerable.
Yeah,
Cosmic
we're in trouble.
shooting
We are
gallery.
so vulnerable.